might have heard this one, food stamps. Did you know that if you get food stamps, it can help lift you out of poverty? Earned income tax credit, it can lift you out of poverty too. All the programs are going around lifting people out of poverty. You gotta get a vision of like this, scooping people up and lifting them up out of poverty. A little bit about myself. I grew up poor in Northern California. My family moved to the gold country during the gold rush and stayed there. So we lived in the gold country area, which is in the foothills east of Sacramento. We moved a lot though. We moved kind of every year from town to town. My dad was a Vietnam veteran with severe and disabling PTSD. My mom tried to keep it together through domestic violence, through poverty, through being, black sheep, kind of pushed out from her family because my father was violent and homicidal, admittedly so, and suicidal. And so we kind of lived on the edge, and we moved a lot, and I managed to come up through that. My sister dropped out of high school. You might define her, as other people do, as a truant, because she dropped out of high school. I define her as my sister, who helped me get to college. Because she dropped out of high school, we didn't go homeless. She worked at night as a nurse's aide, and I was able to go to school and get a full ride to college. And my first year in college, my family went homeless because I wasn't there to help them with my income. And at the time, we didn't have cell phones, so that also meant that I wasn't able to talk to them. I didn't know which park they were staying in at night, or if they were at the hospital. Because if you go to the hospital when you're homeless, you can use the bathrooms for free, and people just assume that you're there to visit a family member. So my path out of poverty, I just was kind of making my way. It was really a panic, to try, how do you get out of here? How do you get to what other people have? We lived in a community where most of the people weren't poor, so I could see really, easily what people had. And I knew what I didn't have, which was food. And the first week at college was the first time I had remembered 3 meals a day in much of my childhood. And while people were complaining about the food and wasn't very good for them, I was thrilled. This milk is real. It's not made with powdered milk. Have you heard of this thing called granola? Have you tasted it? It's amazing. And 3 times a day we got to eat, 3 times a day. And for me, that was liberation. Fast forward, I was in graduate school, on my way to get a PhD, and then welfare reform happened. A very dishonest conversation that our public policy makers had, which pointed at low-income moms, moms like Kim, moms in communities that are disenfranchised. And they said, it's their fault they're poor. What they really need to do is go to work. They really need to go, and we can help them get to work. And if they go to work, then they won't be poor anymore. Also, if they stop having children, they won't be poor anymore, because we know they're really just having the kids so they can get $130 more a month. And it was that experience of being in academia, watching academics promote this lie to American policymakers, and to see it pass, that really changed my perspective of what I was going to do with my life. And so I left my PhD program. I already had my dissertation lined out, my advisory committee, and I say those things because some of you might be academics and you know what that means to get all of that together. And I applied for a grant so we could organize welfare recipients to help welfare recipients register to vote. And that year we got a grant of $50,000, and we hired, for 6 months, we hired people who had never voted before from the welfare office to do that work. And so that was kind of the beginning of my career in anti-poverty work, which has led me to where I'm at now, to do policy work at the state capitol of California. And I think it's meaningful for me to be here to be able to tell you that we haven't figured it out in California either, because you might hear in the news that maybe you think you have. But I think it's because we have been defining poverty in our public policy as an income, as a line on a threshold, as a dollar amount. And the dollar amount, as you heard before, if you're a dollar over, you're officially out of poverty. Surprise! Good job. But you still experience all of the harm, all of the humility, all of the segregation, the health impacts. Nothing changes for you when you get a dollar over poverty. I remember my sister, she continued to work throughout her, most of her life, and until she was injured and has been having a hard time working. But when the recession came, she couldn't find work in our kind of rural town, and she said she had to apply for food stamps. And she didn't want to. She'd always been eligible. She'd always been right around the income line and didn't want to apply for food stamps. But she had identified herself as a worker. I work full time. I don't ask for help. I could do it myself. But when she couldn't find work, she went to apply for benefits. And what she said to me that day, it led me to know that this is the right research project for me to be involved with. She said, I feel poorer than I've ever felt before. I felt poorer getting food stamps than I felt without food stamps.